How often do you find yourself home from an awesome trip of a lifetime, months later trying to remember the name of the town where you had the best gelato ever, or you're trying to explain to a friend the crazy route you took on a cycling trip? Well, we're going to solve that problem by creating an illustrated travel memory map in Procreate using some really exciting tools from the Pigeon Letters and this brand new travel adventure line drawing book. So if you are interested in getting started, just keep on watching. The first thing that you need for this project will be the app Procreate, which I have here. I'm using an iPad Pro and an Apple Pencil, and I have the Procreate app right on here. And I will show you how to open up the correct size document in the next step. But first, I want to show you a few other things that you're going to need for this project, or at least what I suggest you have for this project. And it's mostly going to be a couple different types of brushes, and they are all available through the Pigeon Letters. So they'll be linked on the blog post that goes with this video. But first, we need to have a few brushes to draw with, and so my favorite ones to use are here in this, in both the TPL inking set and the vintage texture set. So the TPL inking set, I use the classic ink a lot. I'm just going to show you here. I'm going to make it a little bit larger so you can see it. That's just a nice brush to use. And sometimes I also use it's this one, the Ink Scratch, for a little bit more texture. They're really nice brushes. They glide super great. They're great for illustrating and doodling and all that stuff. Another great one to use is the TPL Monoline. It's just a standard monoline pen. Really classic one to use. In this pack, I also love this vintage monoline. So it's a monoline, but if you can zoom in a little bit, you can see that there's some texture to it, which I like. There's also a good pencil brush in here for sketching. And then if you would like to add textures to your things, there's all kinds of textures in this set as well. And the third set that I recommend for this project are the Pigeon Grids. It's a set of lettering grids. And so if you've never used these before, I will show you quickly. They're all like gridded shapes. So for this project, I'm just using simple, arcs here, but you could, if you have another project where you need to do some lettering, you stamp it there, you enlarge it, and then lower the opacity on that, make a new layer. I'm doing this really fast. I'm just showing you a quick overview of some of these. And let's grab a pencil. And you would use these grids for your lettering. So they kind of help you. I'm just gonna do a quick example of this map. Yeah, whatever. And then when you take the grid away, the lettering is perfectly aligned in the shape that you want. So you will see me use those in this project, but I quickly want to show you those three sets that I like to use and that I will be using in this project. So you can grab them on the Pigeon Letters website and just upload them right into your Procreate and you're good to go there. The last thing that we need is also available from the Pigeon Letters, and it is this book. This is a new book by Peggy. It is called Travel Adventure Line Drawing, and we're going to use this on the map because what's so fun here is she walks you through how to create all kinds of doodles and things that are travel and adventure related, and they're perfect for putting on a map. Your favorite ice cream shop in town, the food truck that you visited all the time, did you take a hot air balloon ride, all kinds of stuff. So it's really fun. Each section is, based on the type of trip. Could be city stuff, and there's camping stuff. So there's lots of little drawing and doodle tutorials in here. And on the trip that I am going to illustrate on this map, can't find the page it was on, but I'll be using a bicycle because I am illustrating a recent bicycle trip that I took. So if you've got everything set up here ready to go and you're ready, let's just dive on in. So the first thing we have to do here for this is we need to find our map of our location. So I am just going to open up Google Maps here and find my location and take a screenshot of the map. And that's just simply because a map is a map. You don't need to go search out trying to type and think at the same time. You don't have to go search out, you know, a royalty-free version of a map. The map is the map. So I'm doing Sardinia. I took a cycling trip on the southern coast of the island. I'm going to screenshot the whole island, but I'm going to show you that I'm not necessarily using the whole island. So I'm just going to do that and go back into Procreate. To start your document, you will hit the plus sign and you want to think about what you're using this for. Is it literally only going to be something that you put online, or are you planning to potentially print it? I may actually print this, so I'm going to do an 8x10. I do already have it saved here in my favorites, but I'm going to just show you here. So width 8 inches, height 10 inches. The DPI we want to be 300. That lets us be able to print it and have really nice quality there. And then it gives us 89 layers, which is more than enough. Color profile, I just stick with sRGB. And then I hit create. And there we go. So now that I'm in the blank document, first course of business here is to add the map. Awesome. So I'm just gonna enlarge it a little bit so I can get some of the part of that screenshot off. Just put my map here. Okay, so we have our map. Now I did mention that I cycled along the southern coast of Sardinia. So if I leave this map as large as it is right now, let me make a new layer and come here. I'm only going to be able to fill in things on this area, which means the whole rest of this page is going to be blank, and that's going to be ridiculous. So I'm going to clear that. As much as I would love to show the full island, I didn't travel around the full island, so I'm going to zoom out on my document here so I have plenty of room. I'm going to take this and enlarge it quite a bit, so then I'm really only focusing on the area of Sardinia that I traveled in. And in fact, I mean, actually keep going, because we traveled on, it was 150 miles of cycling, but when you look at the whole island, it doesn't turn out to be as much. So I'm gonna do it like this. I think I would like to keep Cagliari in here, because even though I didn't cycle from there, we did spend a night there before we transferred to the other side of the island. So my recommendation for you is to screenshot your map and think about the parts that you visited. Is it a country and you visited the entire country? You went from north to south to east to west and you covered a lot of ground, or did you visit just one area? Or is it just a city? If you just visited a city, you would want to, let's actually, for example, say I only visited Cagliari. I would zoom into this map and I would screenshot the city, making sure that I included all the spots that I went. And then as I'm putting this on the map, I would trace out some of the main roads that I visited, or the main routes of the city, and then leave the rest of the streets off. But try not to include too much, because then you have just a really blank map outside of what you actually visited. So now that our map is here, create a new layer, and I am going to take the in the vintage texture set, the pigeon pencil, make sure I have the right size. Yep. And I just like to work in black for the sketch. It shows up really well. And again, always double check that you are on a new layer. I hate when you kind of draw something and then you go back and you realize you drew it on the wrong layer. So I'm going to zoom back in here. And the first thing we're going to do is get the map laid down in the sketch. This is really easy. You just trace your map, and you'll see that I am not at all following the lines perfectly. I'm just wiggling my brush as I go around. And that is really all you need to do. And then what I'm going to do here is just outline this island and outline this island. And if I take my map away, it's just a nice squiggly line. This project is meant to be really whimsical and kind of fun, and it's not meant to be accurate or to scale in any way. So you can have a lot of creative liberty as you sketch everything. And that said, now that I've traced this out, I'm going to take that map off. I'll leave it there, but I'm gonna take it off. I'm coming back to this layer, and as I look at my map, I feel like it fills the page really well. It's, you know, I'm gonna sketch out all the places I visited down here. I have room here for my title of the country. I'm gonna write Sardinia. I traveled around this island. We stayed here for 2 nights. It's called Sant'Antioco, and it's a little small for me to try to sketch all the things that we did. So because we're not going for accuracy here, I'm gonna take that and enlarge it because I can. So I'm gonna do this, and then in fact I'm gonna take the whole sketch and just scooch it over because I just want to have Cagliari marked on my map. I don't need to mark off stuff that we did because really we had just come from Jordan, so we spent a good chunk of one day doing laundry, and then just sort of walking around and adjusting to being in another country, and you know, after having traveled elsewhere. So that's not the focus of this map, even though I was there, so it doesn't really need to be super prominent. I'm gonna enlarge this island too, because we stopped here for a little bit on a ferry ride, so I would like to mark that, but really I want to have Sant'Antioco take up a good chunk of this map and just play with it, you know. Like I said, this is so not to scale, clearly, because this island here is not this large, but I need it to be in order for the map to make a little sense as I add stuff to it. Yeah, so I think that's pretty good. So I'm gonna add another layer on top of that one. Because we have 89 layers to work with in this specific project, I figure I can just keep going with my layers and it doesn't get confusing as I'm trying to erase something. The next thing I need to do is start adding some of my locations here. And what you can do is, if you still have your map under here, you can go ahead, since I shifted mine, I'm gonna just do this. You can quite literally go on here and add your dots right where your Google map has them. I'm gonna add Pula because we did go here. But I do have a map sitting off to the side here where I can also see them, so I'm just gonna eye them up based on that. And I might actually even move them around a little bit depending on, as I'm going, what I need to fit in here. So I'm going to put, looks like, let me scratch that. I do have a map off to the side, but I think what I want to do is, yep, come back. If my map will work here. Come on, oh my gosh. Technology problems, okay. I'm gonna zoom in a little bit here and just look. All right, there's Pula, Portofino is here, so let's go ahead and add that in. It's a place that we visited. And I will add the labels next, but right now I just want to get some of the dots on here. I'm gonna put, looks like Teulado was like right around here. And I think what I might even do is move some of these further inland just for the sake of fitting things into the map. But that'll be something I do as I go. Another place I need to add is up here. Santa Antioco, we stayed right about there. Okay. I'll put Nebida up there. Okay. So I've put my dots in, I know where my locations are. The next thing I have to do is add the names. So I'm going to add another layer. Stay with me here. And I'm just going to change the color of my brush, and I'm going to go to the pigeon grids. And I am personally going to use the float arc. You can use whatever one, actually no, I'm going to use the arc. Whatever one fits your fancy, but this is the one I'm going to go with. I'm going to come and just make sure my brush size is changed, and right here over this dot, oops, see, too big. I'm going to stamp that down and adjust it so that it's a good size to fit the word in that has to fit here. And now I'm just going to duplicate that. I need to add one here. And now I'm just going to go in and fill in these labels and then see what that looks like with the grids off. And I think that I'm not going to use the entire size of the grid. I might only use the middle 2 blocks and kind of make it that size, but we'll see. Let's see what that looks like. And now I'm gonna just take a look and see if there's any way that I can move those, or if there's any way I can move those, or if there's any adjustments I want to take. So now my title will be in this box. I keep saying title, it's the name of the name of the island. I'm gonna do that on this same layer as the rest of the locations. I have my brush, it's black, I have them on the right layer, and I'm just gonna write Sardinia, but I'm gonna write it in the local language. I'm not gonna spell the English version of it. And this one I am gonna use the entirety of it, of the height here. Okay, so we have our map underneath, we have our labels on top. Awesome. Now we're gonna make another layer. Like I said, I do everything on separate layers as long as I've got the ability to do that, and this project does allow that. So as I said, this was a cycling trip, and so I want to document the path that we took, not in an exact way, but just sort of in a rough roundabout way to show the way we got to each place. But because this is kind of a fun map, I like to make it really whimsical. So technically, we rode along the coastline here. I think we popped inland a little bit, but it was mostly along the coastline, and then we took a ferry here. But I don't want to just trace the coastline. That feels a little boring to me, so I'm gonna have a little fun with it. When I do paths and things like that, sometimes I like to change it up, and when I go to ink it, I might try to use a different brush. But for now I'm going to stick with this pencil on the sketch, and then maybe I'll do some dashed lines here and there. So we'll experiment and see what we find, but I'm just going to start here in Nebida and kind of just squiggle the line here a little. Okay, so that is a rough estimate of what we did on this cycling trip. So I think that looks kind of cool. It's kind of fun, it's whimsical. We didn't actually come inland this much. And our, you know, this was definitely not the shape of our route, but it is the path we took to get to each city. So it's kind of fun. So there's that. I'm gonna make the opacity lower on that one for the next step, which is now we dig out this awesome book. And I'm gonna start flipping through this book and think about what things I can add to this route. So for example, this one. I have a specific memory sitting here in Nebida before our first ride. We were all set up, we got the bikes ready to go. The company kind of has the bike rentals and everything. They got us all set up, and then we were left on our own. There was 3 of us, and we sat down, we got some espresso, and opened up our maps and just started reviewing everything so we could get a feel for what we had to do for the first part of the ride. And I just remember sitting there with my friends being like, we're about to do this trip and we're so excited. So I'm gonna add a map, and I'm gonna use this as my guide here. So the best way to do this is just fit it in. I mean, this is water, this is the Mediterranean, so sure, I can stick a map there. There's nothing else that's gonna go there. And I'm gonna follow the instructions that are in this book and just draw myself a little map, because that's part of my memory here, is just sitting over coffee, looking through our maps and kind of making a game plan. Kind of a fun way to get our trip started. Now, of course, this is going to show up really small in here, so you can't see a ton of the detail, but I know what it is. I think once it's inked and in color, you'll get the idea. I want to add some final details to this sketch. So I'm going to go back to the layer, I'm going to go back to the map layer, this one, and I want to add some kind of waves in here to indicate the Mediterranean Sea. In fact, I would like to label that somewhere, so maybe let's do it here, and I'm just going to freehand this. And I jotted it down in what I think might be Italian. I hope I wrote it right. Cutting it close. Okay, I'm just gonna move this over. Make it smaller. I might try and rewrite that later, but I just wanted to get it there so I didn't forget. So again, on this layer, I'm just gonna add some waves in here, just so we know the difference between the land and the sea. Okay. Alright, I think that looks good. And then I would also like to indicate what this trip was. And so I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna check the pigeon grids. Let's see what we have here. I think the banner is kind of fun, so I might use that. What else is here? If you have a lot of words to add, you could use the banner trio. I'm gonna go with the banner. And I'm gonna go with pink again. I'm gonna go to a new layer. So if there's nothing on it, I'm gonna stamp it in. It's a little large, so that. Let's go here for now. And then another layer. Go back to the black, go back to the pigeon pencil, and I want to write how long I went and how long we rode, because that's something kind of fun to remember. So I'm gonna say, I could write the dates. There's one more thing I need to add on this base map layer, and that is there's a mountain range here, and since it's a big blank spot, I thought I could find a picture of mountains. So page 54. How did I know that there would be mountains in here? There's everything. Everything's here. It's perfect. And then I'm just gonna draw a couple mountains here. We have our sketch here. I've taken all the other layers and turned them off for now so I can just focus on this map. And I'm just gonna take the opacity down. And in fact, what I like to do is put it on a multiply setting. And then when I'm drawing the rest of these layers, the sketches go on top, because when you put the multiply setting on, it allows you to see the sketch a little bit better, no matter what color you put underneath. And the opacity just keeps it so that it's not super in your face. So now let's pick what we're going to use for coloring in and inking the map. If you want to do something like what you see on this book cover, where your artwork is outlined in black and then either filled in or left white or whatever, go for it. I do things in sort of like a flat style, so I don't use a ton of textures, and if I do, they're pretty subtle. I mean, I like some textures, but it's not crazy. And it's usually just going to be filled in with the same color outline in. So I'm going to outline in the vintage monoline from the vintage texture set. Other good ones to use would be the TPL monoline. The classic ink is a really good one. And then in here, oh, the pulpy pointed pen. Oh, I do like that one too. I'm going to outline in that one. I really like that one a lot. Because like I said, if you look up close, it's got some nice texture on the edge. That's the kind of texture I like to use. So we're gonna go with that. We need to pick out colors. So I would like to, go for a sort of bluish color. Sometimes what I like to do is I always draw in color. I rarely ever will actually ink in black and white. And then as I go, I might change the colors up, but I like to at least put some colors on there as I go. I have so many color things here. Color palettes, that's the word I'm going for. Let's just, oh, that's nice. All right, so I'm gonna dive in now. And I'm gonna add a layer on top of this land that's blue. When I do that, I'm gonna group those because we have our sketch section here, and then this one I'm just gonna rename to make it easy. It's gonna be called ink. Okay. On this layer, I think I'm gonna use the same pen. Yeah, I think I'll use the same pen. I'm gonna come and do a darker green and add these waves. So I'm gonna add a new layer. I'm gonna go back to the sketch section, turn that off. What do we have next? We have our labels. Okay, so same thing. I'm gonna make that same multiply and turn the opacity down. 30% is pretty good, sometimes 20. just go with what feels right. Let me go back to this. Okay, so for this, I'm gonna do, I think just white so it stands out really well, and just trace over all of the labels that I've created. And again, if there's anything you want to change the location of, if you're not sure that you want to keep things where they are, do it in your sketch before your inked layer. Now I'm ready to do my path here. I'm going to do sort of a pinky color, I think. Let's see. Let's go with the lighter pink. I like that. And I think I will stick with the same. Let's try vintage monoline. I'm gonna make it a little bit thicker. And all right, we'll go for it. All right, so now the next layer on top of that is going to be all of these cute little sketches. So the decision to make is, do you want them to be in color? Do you want them to be outlined? Do you want them to be filled in? There's a few decisions to make here. I'm going to start by keeping them just an outline, just like they look in the pencil sketch. But we will see what happens there. So adding a new layer, I'm gonna make the opacity of those little doodles go down. I have it at 15 actually. I used a really dark black on the sketch, and I'm gonna set it to multiply. I think I want those little sketches to be this darker pink color. We can always go back and change it, but for now that's where I'm going. And I think, might keep the vintage monoline to start with. Let's see what that looks like though. Okay. Right now I can already tell that this pink does not have enough contrast on top of the green. It does on the blue, but not the green. So either I change the green or I change this color. Let's see, yellow. That looks good on both, so let's go with the yellow. Okay, so now all of my icons are added, my doodles, and I really think they kind of make this map. They're really fun to have. But what I've noticed is that while I intended to keep them just simple outlines, they're a little bit hard to see. So I had changed up the color a little bit. I made them this darker green, which stands out on both the water and the land. And I really don't want to change the other colors in this art piece because I like those colors. So I came up with an idea, and we're going to do that right now. I've added a new layer, and it is behind, it's under these doodles. So I'm going to go in and just use the Pigeon Letters monoline in a white. Choose whatever color you think helps the most, and I'm going to add a layer under here and just fill it in, and you'll see in a second how much this is going to help it stand out. Just drag and drop my color to fill it in, and that just helps it stand out so much more. So I'm going to go and do that to pretty much everything here, I think. And then we will come back and see how it looks. All right, and now look at my map. It's so cute. I really love how it turned out. I think that by putting this white layer in the background, it really helped the doodles stand out. Depending on the colors you choose, though, you might not need to do that. I just felt like it worked for this piece. And you'll see that in some spots, I did try to leave um, the background color shine through just so it wasn't fully white. So here on the camera and maybe some of the glasses or bottles. But for the most part, I filled it in, so it was a lot easier to see. So now that everything looks good to me, oh, I lied. There is one more thing that I have to add, and that was this layer, my label for how long we went. So I'm just gonna again do what we did before, lower the opacity, switch it to multiply. I'm gonna add another layer here. And I think I'm gonna do this in that pink. So and now I think that is officially everything. So I really like this. This makes me really happy. This is a great souvenir for the trip, and it kind of sums everything up. So I can send this to the two friends that I went with, and they'll be able to, you know, understand what all of these things are. They'll remember this is where we got chased by some dogs, and my one friend was really nervous about that. And this was when we finished our official route, and we had cocktails, and there was this tower at this archaeological site, and then it just started raining. We didn't ride in rain for the entire trip, and then it just started raining as we were having cocktails, and then a rainbow came out, and it was just this magical end to a really amazing trip. So hopefully you have a chance to make one of these. Don't forget to grab a copy of the Travel Adventure line drawing book. Great resource to help you add these doodles to your map. And for sure, if you make one, definitely share it with us. Share it with me at the Alicia Bruce. Share it with the Pigeon Letters. We for sure want to see what you make. So have fun creating your personalized travel map. Thank you.